3, 2, 3, and L, L, 3, O, look, cup, Welcome to Articus. There is a saying that we can be mischievous and live carelessly as long as we do not disturb others. There is some truth to it, because if we harm others, the consequences or retribution will not only come from the victim but also from the Almighty. Life just after getting married was quite happily lived by Kim Minam, who resides in Tuan City, Vinh Duong Province, Vietnam, Bata Paishat, Aridikumat, Vietnam. She and her husband lived happily even though they both continued to work at a large factory in the field of bed sheets and pillowcases in the area. They got married in August 2018 when Kimu was 28 years old, and after that she decided to resign to become a full-time housewife. However, it seems the husband's trust faded in December 2018, or 4 months after getting married, when Kimu was caught sleeping with another man who was their neighbor. Her husband was furious and even hit the lava, and Kimu got beaten too. Even friends at work found out about the issue, and Kimu's reputation was damaged because the husband revealed that this was not the first time he caught his wife with another man. As of March 2019, Kimu officially became a widow without receiving any joint property from her ex-husband. She tried to find work again, but it was quite difficult until she became the mistress of 2 older men and received a monthly allowance which she saved to start selling slimming pills and skin whitening pills online. Afterwards, during the pandemic period, her income was still decent enough to cover her own living expenses during the lockdown. Her appearance even improved and became more glowing because she was supported by more than 2 sugar daddies. In May 2022, when the pandemic began to recover, Kimu started actively posting herself going out or partying while showing off her great face and body. Suddenly, she received some unpleasant rumors both from comments on social media and from WhatsApp and Zalo groups. This is related to her past disgrace when she was divorced by her ex-husband because of her hobby of dating many men, even daring to bring them home. There is one woman named Tarangi Kat who is the loudest in bad-mouthing her. Yet according to Kimu, her relationship with Tarangi used to be just fine at work. Oh, now she's the most vocal in bringing up Kimu's past. What's the point? They're already divorced, right? Renaya was confronted once over the phone, but Tarangi reasoned. Well, yesterday someone asked why you got divorced, so I just told them the truth. Gosh, why not just tell them to ask the person directly? There's no need for Tarangi to be noisily spreading stories everywhere because that's not her place. From the beginning, Tarangi has always been the nosiest and a blabbermouth. Even though Kimu has left the group, she got a screenshot from another friend where Tarangi was talking at length about Kimu's past marriage, even adding some exaggerated statements. The woman was upset and started planning revenge. Kanila tampushina tatui. At the beginning of July 2022, Kimu, who was becoming more beautiful, secretly started frequently pretending to send the wrong messages on social media to her husband Tarangi, whose name is Onto, age 36. The man replied, "Wrong send." Then Kimu apologized, asked how he was doing, and the conversation got longer. Well, maybe Onto also felt interested, that's why he entertained it without telling his wife anything. In fact, the man became more persistent with missed calls, asking if she had eaten or not and complimenting some photos the woman posted. Kimu thought, yeah, my trap seems to be working, thus ninda. That's why in mid-July 2022, she asked one of her friends to add her back to the old garment factory employee group because she was getting ready to strike back at Tarangi. Finally, they were added to the group, even though they were protest, including from Rangi, because their friend was no longer part of the community because he is a garment factory worker. But some said, well, it's okay, after all, many other friends who have resigned are still in the group. On Tuesday, July 26, 2022, Kimu invited Onto to stop by her house after work and the man complied. This woman managed to seduce Onto into committing an indecent act that was secretly photographed and recorded. Even afterwards, the man bought several of Kimu's products such as slimming pills to reduce Onto's bulging stomach, and he even paid extra. 4 days later, with an even crazier idea, on Sunday afternoon, July 30th, 2022, Onto returned to Kimu's rented house on Hoi Fanchu Street to commit an indecent act. After the act, it turned out that Onto's face, specifically on the forehead and cheeks, had Kimu's name written with a marker, and his head was covered with Kimu's red underwear. Then he was photographed by the woman, which Onto did not refuse. Seito, inande, ende, tilail. 2 days later, on Monday, August 2nd, 2022, Kimu took screenshots of all the DMs and chats from Onto containing flirtations towards her. Additionally, there were photos and videos from their 2 dates and strange photos from yesterday when the man's face was pranked. All of this was shared with the garment factory employee group, shocking the other friends, and of course Tarangi cried while asking her friend to delete and retract all the files sent. Kimu refused and instead threatened to share the same thing on various social media if Tarangi didn't make an apology video for gossiping about her in the group last month without evidence. But Tarangi thought, what's the point of making an apology video since now the friends in the group already know and have seen Onto's actions with Kimu? That's why 3 days later, Tarangi left the group and together with her husband reported Kimu's actions to the police. However, there was no action taken by the police for 3 weeks. Until the end of August 2022, it turned out that Onto often visited Kimu's residence in the middle of the night with several men to intimidate and threaten. Feeling uneasy, Kimu finally moved out of the rented house at the beginning of September 2022. She left the group and blocked the phone numbers of all acquaintances related to her old workplace. She was even worried and afraid that Onto or Tarangi would secretly take her life. She hid by renting a new house in the outskirts, still within the area of Tuanan City. In her new residence on Dilo Street, Kimu continues her online business selling slimming and whitening pills. The place is smaller than before but quite comfortable and clean. It has to be that way because according to some neighbors, yes, she likes to bring in old men or unattractive men there at night and they only leave around dawn. Everyone assumes that Kimu is offering raw meat rental services not far from her current residence, about 1 kilometer away. Nanela. There is a rental belonging to his cousin named Sotna, who is a newlywed, just 4 months married to Detri Hawaii, and it was Sotna who showed the rental house to Kimu yesterday. At the beginning of October 2022, it turned out that Sotna intended to borrow money from his cousin to pay off debt and rent. The thing is, her husband's job status is sometimes working, sometimes not, because he was laid off due to the pandemic. The intention was to borrow 2 million dong, or about 1.2 million rupiah, but Kimu said the money was tight. In the end, he could only lend 500,000 dong, or about 300,000 rupiah. But it turns out Sotna fails to satisfy because she is sure her cousin has a lot of money. Every day, she receives guests at home and loves hanging out at cafes. Her posts make people envious with food and drinks in aesthetic places. She loves dancing and moving around with her friends at the bar and then posts it on social media. Basically, Sotna is sure she must have money. Well, maybe it's similar to us in Indonesia too. It turns out, when you had your friend frequently posting about hanging out here and there, people automatically think they're rich, but they could just be getting treated. Until the end of October 2022, Kimu said that he had a specific illness that he didn't want to explain to Sotna in detail. Well, his money was spent on treatment, so he couldn't lend much, but the cousin felt it was just an excuse, leading to an argument with stomach because considered stingy. However, Kimu didn't care at that time because he was tired of explaining. He even let go of 500,000 dong yesterday, saying it didn't need to be repaid, it was fine, but Sotna kept insulting him, stingy, miserly. Saturday the 5th of November 2022, Sotna's husband Detri stopped by Kimu's place with the excuse of asking for help to find a job. Often, seeing older men stop by there, maybe someone has job vacancy information to share with Detri. Actually, this woman was offended by the phrase, often older men stop by, but she didn't want to cause trouble, so she agreed, but don't expect much. Instead, afterward, Detri's hand mischievously wandered everywhere, starting from Kimu's knee. The woman brushed it off and got angry until the man bluntly said, "How much is it usually for a one-time thing?" The woman got upset and said that she was feeling unwell. So don't provoke his anger and respect him like Detri respects his wife. But instead, the man spoke mockingly in a condescending tone, talking about respect. Everyone knows your job is selling meat. Nishina. Kimu almost slapped his brother-in-law's face but managed to hold back. He pushed Detri's body out and slammed the door shut. A few moments later, he called Sotna to tell her what had just happened, but the cousin did not confront her husband for several days. On Wednesday, November 9, 2022, Sotna went to Kimu's house and listened to all her cousin's complaints about Detri's behavior yesterday. Sotna cried and vented extensively about her husband's behavior, who doesn't work and often fools around with other women out there. Fortunately, Kimu didn't end up giving money to Detri because the reason Sotna wanted to borrow money last month was due to her husband's many debts, and debt collectors had already caused a scene at her house. Sotna apologized to Kimu, and eventually Kimu also shared about her past problems. Adalah no to Karapan Musho. About her conflict with a former co-worker who is now pursuing her. She even honestly talked about the illness she is suffering from. It's not because of the C19 virus, but rather myiasis, which is a parasitic infection in the intimate organs. Vilarba or maggots, because Kimu used to engage in unprotected activities and only got checked and found out about this disease a month ago due to sudden fainting spells. At length, it was explained to Sotna, who gave support for his cousin to continue treatment until recovery and, if possible, to return to his hometown in Bakjiang to calm down. Kimu said he was indeed considering it, but there were other matters related to his online business that needed to be attended to. 2 days later, on Friday night, around 10 o'clock on the 11th of November 2022, Kimu's door was knocked on loudly, startling the woman and waking her from her sleep. She peeked through the window and saw Detri shouting, "I want to deliver something," sent by Sotna. She opened the door and it turned out the man was staggering half drunk as he entered. He tried to embrace Kimu, but she pushed him away and instead picked up one of the wooden chairs, then threw it hard at the woman. Kimu wanted to escape, but Detri immediately closed the door and blocked it with his body. He grabbed the girl's hair with all his strength and tried to drag her to the bedroom. Kimu resisted, leading to a struggle as she tried hard to head to the kitchen. Detri's grip on Kimu's hair didn't let go until they both ended up in the kitchen, where the woman managed to grab a pan to hit Detri's body. Both of them were thin, but of course the man's strength was greater. Kumsa sa crown some Pearson in Tritaza kissed the night because she was sure something bad was going to happen to her. The man panicked, grabbed a sharp weapon, and then attacked Kimu's neck. After that, Detri ran away from the scene. About 10 minutes later, neighbors who heard the screams tried to enter the house and then together took the victim to Columbia Asia Hospital. The family came to accompany her until 2 days later on Sunday afternoon, November 13, 2022. The woman took her last breath at the age of 32. Datri Hawaii was arrested on Monday afternoon, November 14, 2022 in the Kamau area and was immediately named a suspect because before leaving, Kimu had a chance to tell the chronology to Arivopato. The 27-year-old man, according to police, was in a state of sexual desire and wanted to force Kimo to commit the despicable act, but instead fought back and screamed that he had done it accidentally. He panicked and fled. Ahead of his trial, the police summoned the victim's former co-workers, Tirami and her husband, to testify. They filed a report against Kimo Manam for defamation in an employee group, which was subsequently dropped due to the deceased's death. The autopsy revealed that Kimo did indeed suffer from an illness. His cousin recounted his experiences during the trial. I don't understand why this illness was brought up, considering that Datri's crime was unrelated and it seemed disrespectful to the victim. It's clear that Kimo's death was caused by Datri's sharp weapon attack on his neck. In a final verdict on Monday, July 10, 2002, 3 judges at the Binduong Provincial District Court in Vietnam found Datri Hawaii guilty of assault resulting in death and attempted misconduct. He was sentenced to 20 years in prison. So, what valuable lesson do you think we can learn from today's tragic story? In my opinion, the bottom line is that we must be careful and protect our partners so they don't fall prey to you. Comment below.